I'm playing Minecraft again.
No.
Yeah, we all know, but this is not a Minecraft podcast.
It's a Minecraft podcast now.
No, actually,
I'm-
it is in fact a wrestling podcast. Or did you forget about that?
The wife's not here. She's asleep with a bad back. So, haha.
Yeah, but it's WrestleMania. And I am not going to make you suffer through me talking about that for an hour. So,
Yeah, I know you want to.
oh, I do. I do.
What do we talk about, and who are we?
Well, most of the time we talk about tabletop role-playing games, mostly Dungeons and Dragons and other OSR games that we're all fans of. We're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay, joined with Christopher, Kristian, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello
Hi,
there.
guys. God damn it. Still can't get it right.
I got it right. I don't know what you messed up.
No, Kristian, he didn't say, hey, guy. Hi, guys. He just said, hello there.
Yeah, that's
I don't know
what he
you're
does.
talking about.
I expect him to sound like Obi-Wan Kenobi when he talks. Hello there.
Hello there.
See?
Acceptable.
So what are we talking about tonight, guys?
I got a couple things.
You got more than a couple things. You got a whole buttload
Yeah, I
of
did.
things.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. So,
Oh, hold on a second. You know what, Chris? You always start,
I know.
Dan,
and then you
start.
talk for 50 minutes. All right.
I'll
All right.
start.
So, what was that, Chris? Couldn't hear you.
I said I'd like to start.
I know you do, but you're not allowed to this time.
Okay, fine.
So, I have an ecology for you guys.
Oh, we're starting
Wait,
with
we're starting with the ecology. We're supposed to
Oh,
start
I'm excited.
Oh,
I'm excited.
And this ecology comes to you freshly written tonight.
freshly written.
Tonight by me, based on a monster my 3-year-old niece created this afternoon.
Oh, interesting. I'm all ears.
And I've written up stats for the said monster and an ecology for both Pirate Borg and D&D 5e. So, are y'all ready?
Hit us with it.
Don't hold me in
I
suspense.
couldn't be more ready.
So this afternoon, I was having brunch with my family, and my niece was in town, and she's 3, and she turned to me and said, "Uncle Dan, I am scared of a monster." And I'm like, "What is the monster you're scared of?" And she wouldn't tell me what it was. So I asked my brother, "What is she talking about?" And he chuckled and showed me a picture that he had AI generated to basically fit the bill of what she described to him. And it's something that she had a nightmare about. And it is a combination of 2 very real things into a horrible monster. That horrible monster is a crocaroach.
A crocaroach.
A crocaroach is a saltwater crocodile and a giant cockroach combined into one. It is a hideous amphibious nightmare. So, whenever I was sitting there, with my other brother who was with us whenever we played Pirate Borg, and also with us for the continuing evolution of the crocodiles, starting in Shadowdark on Saturday and then Friday and going for the rest of the weekend. So I was like, I have to write this thing up. I absolutely have to do it. So I wrote it up both in Pirate Borg stats and then 5e stats, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna write some bullshit ecology for it in the style of a Dragon magazine. So here you guys go. What stats would you like to hear first about the crocaroach? And I've also got an image, by the way. 5e stats. Okay, 5e stats. I went ahead and just made it a CR10. Huge monstrosity, unaligned. 18 AC, 225 HP, speed of 40, climb of 30, swim of 40. Strength.
Oh yeah, I guess it does have a climb because there's a cockroach. All right.
Oh yes, it does.
Yeah.
It has cockroach legs. It also has a cockroach carapace, but it has the ambush instincts of a saltwater crocodile.
Oh my god.
Resistance to fire, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, non-magical attacks, immunity to poison, immunity to charm, frightened and poison, dark vision, tremor sense. It's like I said, CR10. It's amphibious, obviously, can breathe air and water. Has an armored carapace. When a creature hits the Crocaroach with a melee weapon attack, it rolls a 1 on the d20. The weapon becomes lodged in its armor, requiring the attacker to make a DC 16 strength check to retrieve it as an action. It has a special ability called Swarm Hiss. The Crocaroach emits a psychic insectoid shriek. Each creature within 60 feet of it that can hear it must take a DC 16 Wisdom save or become frightened for 1 minute. Ambush Predator
Okay.
first round of combat. If it has the assassin thing where if they go first, they get to roll with advantage on anybody who hasn't acted already. Insectoid Resilience. The Crocaroach automatically succeeds on all saving throws against being paralyzed or stunned. Because it's a cockroach, but also a crocodile. It's got multi-attack, it's got bite, raking limbs, auto grapples on a bite, much like a saltwater crocodile would. And if you're getting grappled, this thing's going to take you up on the ceiling of the niche because it is also, as we established, a roach. Has an ability called Skitterburst. The Crocaroach moves up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks, much like a roach would whenever they turn on the lights. It can also move through other creature spaces during its movement and doesn't trigger ready actions or opportunity attacks. It's a recharge action 4 to 6. I went ahead and made this guy legendary because why wouldn't you? It can detect invisible things via tremor sense with basically a single legendary action, just using detect, kind of like in Baldur's Gate. Kite and Slam. The Crocaroach slams its armored body into the creature within 10 feet. DC 15 Dex, or take 9 bludgeoning and be knocked prone. And Skitter, move up 20 feet without provoking opportunity attacks. Lair actions, if you happen to fight it in its lair. Brackish Water, Tidal Surge. Brackish Water floods part of the battlefield. Creatures within a 20-foot radius make a DC 15 strength saving throw or be pushed back 15 feet and knocked prone. Egg Burst. The Crocaroach younglings, 1d4 Crocaroach younglings using the giant centipede stats with a swim speed, erupt from a nearby corpse.
No,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, when you step on a cockroach and its babies happen to be nearby. It's fine. It's great.
I've had that happen with spiders before. It's horrifying.
Yeah, it is absolutely horrifying. It's a horrifying monster. And Skitter Echo. Loud echoing skittering fills the cave. Each creature that can hear it must succeed in DC 14 Wisdom save or have disadvantage on all concentration checks or until initiative count 20 in the next round. So that's the 5e stats. I actually started with the Pirate Borg stat. I don't know if you guys have played Pirate Borg, but I don't know if you actually looked through the book and seen the stats of some monsters. Just kind of based it on some of the other stuff.
Yep.
That I saw in there, but I gave it 32 hit points, which is significant for Pirate Borg. Like,
Yeah.
a big boy necromancer, like undead, has like 20 HP. Has morale of 10, which means it's really hard to scare. Armor of D4 because it's chitin scaled hide. It's fast, can swim and climb as we established before. Has bite attack, and of course you have to make a DR12 Dex, or you're immediately grappled and you're immobile while you are. And you can attempt to escape using your agility. Raking limbs, again, multi-limb flail. You can target up to 3 people because you have as many legs as the cockroach.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Swarm Hiss. Once per combat, everybody within 30 feet must make a morale test, or they become frightened. And other abilities. Skitterburst, as a reaction to damage, the Crocaroach can move up to 15 feet, including on walls. Insectoid Resilience, immune to poison and charming effects from sorcerers, and etc. Ambush Predator, reduce your DR to 8 for any attacks when you're acting from stealth. So, for example, I don't know, ambushing some pirates going into a cave in a longboat. Tough Carapace, any weapon attacks that rolls a natural 1, again, gets lodged DR12 strength test to retrieve it. Its only weaknesses really are torches, sunbursts, or any sort of sudden bright light. Much like a cockroach, it must make a morale test and flees until it is outside of the light. And blunt weapons will ignore. Will give it basically one step down in its armor from a D4 to a D2, basically breaking its carapace to get to its hide instead.
Yeah.
And other notes include if you end up fighting this thing and it's in its lair, there's a 1 in 6 chance that when it uses its death hiss or swarm hiss, that its younglings will come to its aid. And you can roll how many younglings there are. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna fuck around. I'm gonna make a ecology of the Crocaroach, and of course the Crocaroach much like many great D&D monsters, is made by somebody trying to do something they thought was a great thing, and then regretting that decision.
A wizard did it.
It was an alchemist, actually, but yes.
Close enough.
So the goal was to create an adaptive predator from naval warfare, clearly combining the armor regeneration and the abilities of a giant cockroach, but with the ambush prowess and aquatic abilities of a saltwater crocodile. So things that can crawl up on walls, onto ships, perhaps, but also be as dangerous as a crocodile. But much like these horrible things, and much like in real life, this thing, the first one escaped the lab. And then a second one escaped the lab, and then they had babies, and then those babies had babies, and now there's many of these things all throughout the Caribbean, and these things can get up to 25 feet long, weigh in excess of 4,000 pounds, in its entire central half, where you would only have like 4 little stubby legs of a crocodile, which are bigger than an alligator's legs because they are kind of tall compared to an alligator. Instead, you have all the cockroach's legs under its big protective carapace like shell. And instead of having eyes to make it even creepier, we end up having tremor sense. So essentially, you can just crawl about and find out where somebody is. So you really can't hide from this thing. What else here? I wrote literally an entire ecology. Essentially, I took like 3 or 4 Dragon magazines and put them side by side. I wrote them in the style that Ed Green would write about stuff in Forgotten Realms. So I'll post it just because I think you guys get a kick out of it. But at the end of the day, essentially, it becomes a myth, becomes a legend, then they actually appear because the Dark Caribbean, nasty, terrible shit appears in the Dark Caribbean. But essentially, all the local governments, as well as all the pirates, want to kill whoever the hell created these things because they're a danger to literally everybody. Able to, drag off horses or drag off small fucking ships. I mean, it's 25 feet long. Yeah, basically, kill it with fire, and hope to shit you're not fighting it in its lair because it will probably disappear beneath waves before you ever manage to kill it. But that is the Crocaroach from the mind of my 3-year-old niece.
So Dan, oh no, I love it. So after you posted the link to that for us earlier today, and I shortly after posted a picture back that was it was actually a picture of a frog mixed with a cockroach because I thought that said Crocaroach. And it wasn't until now when you started explaining it that I realized what it actually is.
I was just cackling at brunch today because I heard about this, and she's legitimately afraid of this thing, and so I'm definitely never going to show her any of the images that I created afterwards or any of the story about it because she'll have even more nightmares. But I don't know why she came up with this, but the mind of a child is fantastic, and I really think that some of the hybrid animals that Gygax came up with in the early days of D&D. I know the story goes that he went to basically the Dollar General and got some cheap ass, Chinese castings of toys that were supposed to be of safari animals, but ended up being really the owl bear and other such things that were kind of unrecognizable creatures. So he just said, it's an owl and a bear. Sure, let's do that.
I mean, that's the best.
I'm wondering if
things come around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if it wasn't some of his kids being like, Daddy, what I'm afraid of is this. I had a nightmare that this happened. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna write that into a monster.
Probably some of them were that, but you remember the whole Advent calendar thing we looked at on here, where the castings were. Well, I don't know what the hell this is.
Yeah, those were absolutely great too, and they just perfected, I think, half the animal creations we could ever think of. So I think this is basically how, like you said, how things get created. We see something, we take it to the extreme, and just run with it from there.
Yeah, anybody else would have just heard this and done what my brother did and oh yeah, sure, I'll AI generate a picture. Is this what you're talking about? And she's like, oh my god. He runs away, and
But-
that's the end of it. And I'm like, no, I have to make this into a monster, and my PCs will fight this monster.
But now I have to write an ecology of the Crocaroach.
Oh yes, please.
Yeah.
Now you're up.
Yeah, my turn apparently to
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
stupid.
yeah, we've been deep diving into old school ecologies, but I figured this week I'd go with a brand new ecology.
I mean,
so you heard it here first. So if you guys want to integrate this into y'all's games, I will write up or I'll make some PDFs of the 5e stats and the Pirate Borg stats. I feel.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely post it to our Facebook and our Discord for everyone to download and use if they care to.
Yeah.
Like in the same vein too, when I was writing my owl campaign years ago now at this point, my daughter made up a centipede that steals people's shoes, and drew a picture for it. And I was like, okay, well, what do you think it would do? And she told me like, oh, it steals your shoes and runs away. It doesn't really fight you, but it's also invisible. So I'm like, all right, so this thing's invisible like all the time. She's like, yeah, until it kicks you, and then it kicks you 1,000 times because it's a centipede.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're gonna be a great dungeon master.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait until the end before I hit you guys with another X-Crawl classic monster that I don't even want to. I don't even want to say the name of it until then.
The pennyfish.
Yeah, that's totally it. Oh my goodness,
I guessed it. Yes.
Good job. All right, so what else we got going on this week?
So speaking of dungeon magazines, I happen to acquire a bunch.
Nice. Good job.
Good segue. I like it. I like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Since you stole my intro,
I absolutely did. Hijacked it, you might say.
Hijacked it even.
Pirated it.
So I was given the opportunity to buy a lot of stuff from essentially an estate sale. A guy has passed, and he was a dungeon master, and he played obviously from the start of first edition.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly what I bought from him ahead of time was some miniatures. Basically, I bought his entire miniature collection. And he had a lot of the pewter miniatures, but mostly a lot of third edition miniatures. And I never really got the opportunity to buy like the books that he had because his wife hadn't gone out of her way yet to kind of parse through what he had and sell it to the guy that I bought it for. So I had the opportunity to actually this week meet up with him. I've been waiting to meet up with him for months now, actually, to be truthful. I just been so busy with Gary Con and a bunch of other things that I couldn't sync up with him. And ended up buying the remainder of the collection from him. The only thing that he asked to keep was the Pathfinder books, and I was more than happy to let that guy keep the Pathfinder books. So the stuff that I had bought previously, kind of mixing in with the few things I bought from you, Jay. I just want to go through the AD&D books that I now have in my possession, mostly from this giant lot that I bought, and the few things that I got from you. Okay?
Yep.
You guys got to be ready for this. So I have now 2 copies of the Fiend Folio, the full art variant. I have 2 full art DMGs, a full art PHB, and a full art monster manual.
What do you mean full art? Like they were all full art?
So that's what I was about to ask too, is because then I have the monster manual that just has an orange binder on the side. So I'm not sure which version difference. It's the same data, the same information in between those two, but I'm not sure what the difference is between one that has the full art around the whole book and one that just has a different picture and the binder is red or orange. I mean,
a binder,
the binding or the binder.
Yeah, the binding. Okay.
The orange. You're talking about the orange bound monster manual from AD&D, right?
I guess so. Yes. Yeah.
It's sort of a second printing. It's not second edition, but it's a later print where they, if I recall correctly, it's where they adjusted a lot of things and fixed errata, things like that. Okay.
So basically then I have that, and I have the monster manual too. And then I have Unearthed Arcana, 2 copies of the Dungeon
Dungeon Survival Guide. Yep.
The Wilderness Survival Guide, Oriental Adventures, Greyhawk Adventures, and Legends and Lore. I also got the collector's.
Legends and Lore's a good one. You'll enjoy that.
I also have basically the collector's edition versions that they published in like 2000 something, but I've had those forever, all wrapped up, but I never wanted to open them.
Those are quite valuable.
Yeah. And then I have 2 copies each of the Forgotten Realms Encyclopedia of the Realms and the DM Source Book of the Realms. The bindings to those are a little different, but basically different printings.
What are they called? I don't recognize them offhand. DM Encyclopedia.
A DM Source Book of the Realms and Encyclopedia of the Realms for Forgotten Realms. It has like the Forgotten Realms like banner at the top of the book.
Yeah.
And then
I know what those are.
Oh, are they?
Then I have.
Is it the Gray Books?
Yes, the Gray Books.
Oh, okay. Those are first edition, but they are right at the end, like the tail end of first ed.
That's when they're making that transition from.
Yeah, I could tell because the Forgotten Realms logo is the same as the second edition Forgotten Realms logo.
Yeah,
and so
I've got the box set on my shelf somewhere.
I don't have the box set, but I'm guessing in that box set comes
that book is from the box set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that the giant 4-page, 4-part Forgotten Realms map
also box set.
It comes from the box set. So I have that. The maps are fantastic condition.
Yeah.
Not a flaw or a mark on them.
So you have 2 Gray Books and the 4 maps.
I got 2 sets of each of those books, and then I got 1 full set of maps.
So you have the full. Yeah, sorry, you have the complete box set. You just don't have the box.
Okay, need to buy the box then.
Yeah.
Then I have the creature catalog. I have the Player's Companion books 1 and 2. The Expert Rules. I'm guessing that comes from probably like another box set.
The Expert Rules that's the blue book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from the second. That's D&D Basic, but that's from the second box set. I mean, I know you've heard the word BECMI, BECMI, which is Basic, Expert, Companion, Master, Immortals.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I got the reference 2 player character sheets, reference 3 Book of Layers, and the DM Designs Kit. Probably another box set.
I'd have to see the pictures of them. Which one are you talking about?
It just says Dungeon Master Design Kit.
Dungeon Master Design Kit. I am not familiar with that one offhand. Let's see.
Then I also got
that's
2 sets.
Module.
Then I got 2 sets of the Greyhawk Fantasy Setting and the Greyhawk Glossary.
All right.
Then to the stuff I really wanted, just first edition, I have modules A4, B1, 2, and 3, which is the Into the Borderlands and that series of adventures. So I got all of them. I got D3, DA 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is another full set of adventures. EX2, G 1, 2, 3, which is just a single module that's like Into the Giants or Against the Giants. Then I have I6 and 10, which are Ravenloft 1 and 2. I don't know why Ravenloft 1 is 6 and Ravenloft 2 is 10.
So Chris, I need you to memorize the letters and number combinations with every one of those modules.
Yes, so we can play the game later. Yeah.
So we can then play Trivial Pursuit.
Yes. I know, you're getting ahead of me.
oh shit! All right, I didn't even know you were going to talk about that.
And then I got I13, which is another random one. Then Q1, S1 and 2, S1 and 2. Oh, sorry, S1 and 3. Those are some drow modules, and they got the old school drow art on them. You know, the kind of we can't show around anymore.
Yeah, you mean the actual drow.
T1, U1 and 3, X1. I have 2 copies of that, and X9. And then I got the Dragonlance, almost, I guess, complete module set, 1 through 13, and I'm missing a couple of those from within it.
Okay. Yeah, those are the ones I've always wanted copies of. That I've had a couple of them that I don't own anymore. but never had the whole thing or even close to it.
And the last of the one-y stuff that I have is stuff again that came out just about to the second edition side of things. So it actually says on this first edition module that it will work with second edition. King's Festival, Thunder's Rift, and Assault on Raven's Ruin. And they're a very different style of it as well too.
I want to say the Dragonlance stuff was second ed. Like I'm not 100% on that, but I think it was.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
You'd have to check. You'd have to check the dates that it came out. Just check check the first one, what the date was. And if it's after 1990 or later, then it's second ed.
And I haven't gotten through all the second edition stuff yet, but I just want to say that I think my 1E collection is far on the way of needing to where I need it to go. And now that I've been looking this stuff up, and now I have to start going in and finding out what I'm actually missing, I'm going to kick ass at Trivial Pursuit next time we play it. I'm going to know all this stuff. I'm going to know, like, oh, what letter combination is the Ravenloft's first printing? I6. Gotcha. My point. Fuck you.
Yeah. If whenever I play Trivial Pursuit, the ones I have always struggled with the most are the module adventure ones because I don't fucking own any of them. I didn't run any of them. I am not familiar with them at all.
Yeah.
And then when they would ask names about people in the industry, and I'm kind of looking forward to playing again now that I've listened to We Are Wizards.
Yeah.
So
all in all, like you have to go through this guy's complete collection still, and I did kind of parse kind of like what his playing was. It's like he did a lot of first edition, he played a lot of second edition. He has basically the first printing of the DMG Player's Handbook and Monster Manual for third edition. And they're like pristine condition. Like they are like
bought them and never used them.
Cracked up. And I don't think he ever used it at all. He has a couple modules from third edition, but I don't think he ever played them. If he did, he probably just played it in second because he does have a lot. Like I said, he's a substantial first and second edition stuff. He also has an obscene amount of fourth edition stuff. I haven't even started going through that because I also have an obscene amount.
I was about to say, I think you already owned all that, right?
No, there were a couple of things like I didn't ever own, like the Dragonomicon and stuff like that, because they would never I never needed those resource pieces, but he has them. So kind of combining what I had versus what he has, like I have, I think, probably all of fourth edition. If not, I'm very close and most likely will finish buying all the books because I know everybody hated it, but the lore and stuff in there are still great. There's still monsters in fourth that I know weren't in first and second because they're relatively new.
I mean,
but they're still very valid monsters for
like Dwergar who shoot quills out of their beards.
Like it's beyond that. Okay, those Dwergar were unique to the Points of Light setting. Okay. And if you don't like those kind of monsters, that's fine. But when they basically swapped the monster manuals back to Forgotten Realms, essentially, is where they kind of took all that stuff away and had to reprint the Dwergar and all that stuff. So that stuff is very unique to the Points of Light setting. The Nintir Vale, I think, is the actual name for it. But there's a lot of monsters in there too that I find more unique, and I guess Jeremy Crawford had more of a luxury to like bend his creative muscle with those monsters and not having to keep to the standards of Forgotten Realms, and hopefully in his next job he can have just as much fun creating new, wonderful, crazy Porcupine Dwergar. But
yeah, like my collection, I didn't even really start collecting D&D until after we started doing this podcast. Like I owned a good bit of stuff just from having owned it, but a lot of things I had lost over the years. Most of my second ed collection was gone until I managed to come across a large collection of which I bought the whole thing replaced a lot of the second ed stuff I had lost, and then I sold off a bunch of the first ed modules to you, and then and now my first ed stuff is slim. Like I don't have hardly any of it.
I did tell my wife when I bought all the stuff, it's like, hey, I'm probably going to be selling all the duplicate stuff, and there's probably going to be a lot of duplicates. And unfortunately, now that I've kind of gone through first and second ed, there's not a lot of duplicates. So I'm going to be keeping most of it, and no one's going to buy fourth edition stuff. The only module that's worth anything is Tales of the Undermountain, I think the book is called, because it has a full art map of the Yawning Portal in it. So that book can go for about $100, mostly just because of the map. The map will go for $100. The book is useless. The map, however, is fantastic. And if you've watched our TikTok, it's the map that I use for reviewing the blind opens for the.
Would it be Halls of Undermountain?
Yeah, Halls of the Undermountain. Yeah. So it's a very nice map. So you can either spend $100 to get that map, or you can spend $300, $400, and get the actual model from WotC. Which
it's come down way in price. It's about $35 now.
You say that. Whenever I go to buy it, it jumps up to 100 before I can buy it.
Buy it right now. It's about $35.
So I'm very happy with this kind of like collection that I've been growing now. I still kind of I really do need to sit down and read these at some point in time, but I kind of wanted to ask you guys, what should I start with? Like, I don't know if the DMG would be useful or the player's guide will be useful, but
definitely the first edition DMG.
You think so?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear Kristian and Dan's thoughts on this.
That is still very highly regarded as a nice piece of esoterica. There's still people that use those rules for populating like hex crawls. There's just a whole lot. It's kind of a hard read in that the way that it's laid out is kind of wall of text, and it's also disorganized in its the order of things. It is not organized very well. But there is a lot of information, especially if you want to understand why and how kind of old school games are played in some of the ways they are, and where some of the people get the ideas for the way things quote unquote should be. So there's a whole lot of information. It's still a very highly regarded text as far as dungeon master advice or role playing advice or world building. So yeah, that would be my vote. 100% is go for that first edition DMG.
Yeah, Dan, what would you say? What book would you say Chris should pick? Not necessarily as a first read, but just out of all of the first and second ed stuff, what book or two would be of import that he could get a lot out of?
Core books, or are we talking about
any book, anything, preferably something he owns, which he has. It seems like he has most of the first edition stuff.
I didn't go over the second edition stuff, but I'll go over that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to name.
I haven't gone through the modules yet, but I have the complete Thieves, Wizards, Psionic, Druid, Dwarf, Bard, Fighters, Priests handbook, the Castles handbook, the Catacombs handbook, the DMG, the Player's handbook, Legends of Lore, Adventures in Forgotten Realms, Time and Magic, and the Myth Drenor campaign guide, and the map of Myth Drenor in 4 parts.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. But, much quicker because I don't have to go through the modules. I just haven't gone through all the modules yet to see what modules I have for that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Dan, pick this book.
What should I start with, Dan?
Because you're into like really writing modules, I would start with Keep on the Borderlands.
Okay. I can definitely do that.
I know that you have like the deep dive of it from the like the one called Into the Borderlands by Goodman Games that basically converts it to 5e, but they also give you background on it and all the original text of it. It's just a really, really well written introduction module that you can plop into literally anywhere. And the monsters are kind of generic enough that they don't have to. You can reskin them if you want to. You can reskin the entire thing if you want to. You can add or subtract a lot of the stuff in there. It gives you just like a full-on playground that if you wanted to run a first edition D&D game, you could start with Keep in the Borderlands and end up like 5th, 6th level by the time you're done with it. If you wanted to explore the entirety of the Caves of Chaos, or you wanted to defend the keep from the, encroaching army, or, spoilers for a 45-year-old module. The other one that would be probably worthwhile, I don't know if you have it, but it's worth looking up, is the Rules Cyclopedia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's not actually AD&D, it's actually like, as I understand it, it's like Basic Expert all compiled into a single nice volume.
It's most of Beckme except some of the stuff in Immortals. It has a little bit of Immortals, but most of the Immortals is missing. It just kind of touches on that. But other than that, it's most of Beckme.
Yeah.
Okay.
All compiled into one thing with some extra stuff. Rules Cyclopedia is excellent.
And
Still
that,
one of my
that might
favorite.
be in the stuff that you got from the 2nd edition stuff, because that got compiled and printed in 91, 90, something
Yes.
like that, around the time.
Yeah,
was kinda
right around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of the last gasp of basic, maybe, or as far as rules are considered.
Yeah, and it even actually touches on like the stuff that I'm sure you know nothing about, and most people probably don't. Mystara and Hollow World campaign settings is
Called the
included in
known
there.
world back
Yeah.
then. The known world, yeah.
Yeah, I thought about hitting up something with a star because that seemed to be what Ed was always focused on, And I kind of like to learn what that line is between that and
Gazetteers of the Known World. Look up those books. They're all books that expanded on the world and the lore and also rules for the basic expert line. Gazetteers of the Known World. In fact, one of them was written by Ed Greenwood, The Five Shires. He wrote the ones about the halflings.
Of
Because
course
he was
did.
asked to by one of his friends there, even though he was
a halfling.
So
that man is a halfling.
There you go. There's my
He's
picks.
immortal.
Also, Legends and Lore is a fun read too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really, honestly, any of the monster-based books from AD&D were just wonderful. Like the art is just chef's kiss, just beautiful, beautiful stuff. It's art-wise, a lot of the black and white stuff isn't pretty, I guess, by modern standards. It doesn't have a polished feel of a Magic the Gathering card, but you can tell that for the most part, most of those people were given a description by the designer of the monster and said, "Hey, can you draw this?" And they did the damn best they could in a black and white format. And and for 15 years at least, that's what that monster was.
Yeah.
To everybody. Until 2nd edition Monster Manual came out and we actually had color images of everything, which some are more successful than others, but mostly I would prefer the Invisible Stalker is the best image of the Invisible Stalker, and you should look that one up. If you've got the 2nd edition Monster Manual,
Second edition Monster Manual.
You're gonna be wowed. I couldn't even believe when I saw it for the first time. I had to flip the page, look back at the page again. I'm like, am I looking at this right?
Greatest piece of art ever made.
Mm-hmm,
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What was the other one that you mentioned, Kristian? Those are the Rules and Adventure book or something like that?
Legends and Lore?
Okay. I was talking about like a companion to Rules Cyclopedia. I'm just looking on eBay, and there's one that somebody has that has Rules Cyclopedia with the Rules and Adventures book, which is also has the same font that they use it for a brief period of time between AD&D First Ed and Second Ed. It's
Gazetteers of the Known World is your your line. It's a series. I think there's, I don't know how many of them, 13, 14, maybe 15. They're a whole line of like those small, like if you think the like cardstock cover and then interior books, kind of like those, and they all expand and tell kind of they give deep dives on the lore and some more rules and like playing, if you were going to set your game in that region of the known world, which is what it was called before it was referred to as Mystara.
Yeah, I actually own a couple of these, and I picked these up back in the mid-late 90s, probably for like $2 at a garage sale or something like that. I have the one that's basically Vikings. It's called the Northern Reaches, and I have the one that is basically Mongols. It's called the Principalities of Lantry, I think.
Yeah.
And
The Principality of Lantry, I think, is the wizard one. Maybe there's a Khanate one. That's the Mongols.
Yeah, but I had no idea Mystara was even a thing. Like I just used it as a source material to write a Rollmaster game back when I was in college. And I was like, yeah, Vikings, sure, this looks good.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Vikings.
Yeah, this is great. It's fine. That's cool.
Yeah. So Chris, to stick with the books that you already own, I have 2 suggestions. One, and you probably have already read these, but I would suggest the Gray Forgotten Realms books because those were the first ones released. I think they came out before the Forgotten Realms hardback one. Pretty close in the same time period, but I'm pretty sure the Gray box set was first. But it's sort of the core of what Forgotten Realms is supposed to be, and I know how much you kind of love that setting. That's what Ed Greenwood wrote. That's what Ed Greenwood intended it to be, not necessarily what it is at this point. So it's sort of the beginning point of the story of Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that's in there are for, this is 30 years ago or whatever. So it's not even necessarily relevant with today's standards, but you always kind of want to know the history of it, the beginnings.
Well, with what seems to be happening, they seem to be kind of going back to the old materials. Mostly just like not to dredge up the old stuff, but kind of like they're almost like I kind of feel like they're gonna like try to reset the world in a way.
I wouldn't be surprised that happens.
Yeah, I really hope they don't because that just seems like a weird cop out. But with all the stuff that they've been doing and the story and stuff like that, and they're kind of doubling back down on the 1200s, 1300s. They seem to be bringing the Netherese back like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just a weird thought that I had.
Yeah, like if you read the gray books, like the Netherese they're probably mentioned, but just barely, sort of as a historical footnote for the Anorak Desert. Like there's not even going to be a whole lot on them in that book.
Yeah,
because
there's some stuff like somewhere in one of those, and maybe it's in the City of Splendors book, the Waterdeep focused box set. They talk about like Halaster Blackcloak, the Lord of Undermountain, is actually a Netherese wizard. He's surviving.
That's new info. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, he's one of them. What's that freaking? There's a lich too that is a really old lich that is Larlock. Larlock, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know him. The other one I want you to read just because I liked it a lot was as soon as you mentioned it, the Myth Draenor books that you had. I don't know how many books you've got. Do you have the map and everything for it? The maps?
Yes, I have all the maps.
Do you have the adventure cards they came with it? They're sort of hard stock cards.
No.
Okay. It came with an adventure as well, but there's probably one printed in the book. Like Myth Draenor was the city of the elves, or one of the cities of the elves that fell because they dug too deep with magic, basically, and then they opened up a rift where all these demons and shit started coming through. So at the time Forgotten Realms, the setting sort of gets released. The Myth Draenor box set isn't far behind that, and it's known as a place that adventurers would go because there are incredible magic items there, but it's also incredibly fucking dangerous. So
what is it?
Yeah. But Myth Draenor was known for eating adventuring parties alive. Quite literally, because the weave was fucked up there. So you would go into Myth Draenor and your magic might not even work. You don't know until you get there, and it might work here, but if you step 10 feet to your right, it might not. So it was a really sort of interesting setting and a great place to run a campaign for if you just need adventures to run here and there.
You know, you kind of bring that up, and that's just something that I've noticed has like almost gone out of favor. But I remember I was reading through the 4th edition Planescape books and the Spelljammer books, and in there it stated that because when you're traveling through the Planescape, because you're no longer connected to the weave as you would be if you were on Toriel and a few other areas, like your magic would stop working and you only had access to spells like up to 3rd level. And if you try to cast it higher, you'd have to, pass certain checks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Mostly just will checks, I believe, is what 4th edition used. And then when you talk about Mr. Norn having that same problem, and when I was running Eve of Ruin, I brought that up as a problem for the players too, because it just adds this level of unique feel. Like, oh shit, we really over our heads, and I may not have my magic all the time.
So I see that 4th edition also royally screwed up Planescape whenever they mentioned it. Good to see that. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Just a bunch of fuck ups.
The best part too is, if I remember correctly, when you're traveling between like places on a Spelljammer, you're like in like some kind of phlogiston or whatever that word is.
The phlogiston.
Yeah.
The phlogiston, yeah. And if you were to cast a fire spell of any kind, it would erupt.
Oh yeah.
And catch on fire. Like, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, but you could end up leaving from Forgotten Realms, end up on Kryn, and next thing you know, you don't have access to any of your magic. Your deities aren't there, so you don't have access to that.
Or you end up in Bridgetown and you got a party with
Yep.
For as much as we love Bridgetown, why have we never played it?
Because I don't run Troika.
I'm not going to run Troika either, but
yeah,
you could run it in pretty much any setting you want.
I could. It's just a matter of finding the time to do it for me. I personally have plenty of time to run games, but I don't have enough players who have enough time.
Speaking of players playing enough time, I was talking to Dungeon Lord Jay, and he is basically been given permission, I guess would be the best way to say it. And he's working with a guy who previously hosted this, but essentially they're having they call it Nerd Fest, and it's here in Charleston. And basically it's just a full day of playing D&D at a giant brewery. And I had mentioned it to Kristian just like offhandedly. He's like, oh, it's too bad it went away and it's not coming back ever again. Turns out I'm wrong, and it's happening now in August. So,
all right. Hey, if you're in Charleston, there you go. Are you going
to Charleston?
Yeah. Are you planning to go, Chris?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely doing it. I'm trying to see if I can't either
run something,
get some Keshinar stuff from David Hayden, if he'll let me run some of that.
That'd be cool.
And if not, I'm just going to run Shadow Dark, because it turns out not many people know what Shadow Dark is, and I gotta fix that problem. It seems.
Yeah, that's a fucking crime.
Well, it's Charleston. They're stuck in their old ways.
You can change that. I believe in you.
Yeah, I'm such a trendsetter.
Now what I want to know is, when is Kristian going to talk about Numenera?
Waiting for you guys to shut up.
I know, right? Go ahead, man.
You shut the fuck up. When we talk about Numenera, I like numbers. Math man.
Well, this came up. I hadn't thought about this for a while, but when I had briefly mentioned, we had mentioned on here that I think I'm going to be running a Planescape campaign when Dan's done with his. And so I was like, oh, I'd kind of like to run it in Shadow Dark instead of 5th edition. To me, it just seems easier to convert the 2nd edition stuff to Shadow Dark than 5th edition.
Yeah, you could probably wing half of it.
Yes, exactly. Way less work on my part. But so I brought this up to our some of the people in our D&D group the other night that are going to be playing in this game, and Dan's wife's reaction was like, "Oh no, is this that system that that we played that you ran that one time a while ago at the old house?" And I was like, "No, that was Numenera." She's like, "Oh, good, as long as it's not that." But she had a very visceral reaction to worrying that it was the Cypher system or Numenera. So yeah, Numenera was something. It's Cypher system is Monte Cookes games. It's their thing. When they first did a Kickstarter for it, I think it was somewhere in between the time. I don't know if it was right before or right after 5th edition came out, because he worked in some of the early like playtesting kind of design of 5th edition.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
before 5th edition released, he left the team that was working on it.
I mean,
And
Monte Cook's been around forever.
yeah, and I knew who he was because he worked a lot on Planescape and stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but he started up Monte Cookes Games and did this big Kickstarter for Numenera, starring his new Cypher system. And it had, I think what particularly enchanted me with the idea of the system was this whole thing was like, okay, when you create a character, you create it by filling out this kind of sentences. You just say, I am a blank blank who blanks, or I am a noun, or I'm a adverb noun who verbs. And he gives examples of like, oh, what you're going to be is like, I am a courageous glaive who rides the lightning, or I am a clever jack that bears a halo of fire, which all sounds freaking cool.
Yeah, it's a lot very adjective heavy.
Yeah, but it sounds
like you're on drugs, but yes.
I mean, that's what most stuff, you talk about any sort of random tabletop stuff to any person that doesn't know what tabletop are, they kind of look at you like you are a crazy person.
Yeah,
I guess that's fair, yeah.
Plus all the writers are on Adderall.
I thought it was ketamine.
So in practice, or not in practice, in theory, this all sounded kind of cool, and I was kind of looking for something that was a little more leaning back. We've been playing a lot of Pathfinder and 3.5, and we had, at the time, we're not eager to adopt the upcoming 5th edition. We knew 4th edition was trash. And so I looked at this, and I backed the Kickstarter, got the books, got the box set in, or the slipcase in with the box, the hardback rules and some soft cover stuff that you can give to players, created characters, ran a campaign. I will say on the DM side, this is one of the easiest games to DM. All the rules are player facing. For stats for your monsters, they're very little that you have to actually keep track of. So it's a really easy system for the DM. It has some interesting things like it's mostly an exploration and discovery kind of based XP system. So players don't get XP for killing monsters or getting loot. It's all about finding interesting things, places, pieces of history, snippets of lore, that kind of thing. That is the purpose.
That's right up my alley.
Yeah, and so.
And if I recall correctly, it was kind of like Pirate Borg in that the DM doesn't roll any dice; the PCs always roll. So
the DM rolls no dice.
If I, as a skeleton, as a DM, attack the glaive that's doing the thing and riding the lightning, he rolls a defense check, and that's it. Was it? I can't recall.
It's even set. It's all set damage.
Between it was set damage, and if you got hit, you just got hit for the 4 or 2 or however much damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming back to me. It's been like 15 years since we've played it.
It was a while. Yeah, it was because we did it when it first came out. This was the very he's been doing Cypher system for over a decade now.
Yeah, Numenera came out in 2013, so it's been a while.
And so I backed it when it first came out. As soon as I got the stuff, I read through the stuff, read through the adventures, and then ran a game. So, but I remember like the system was just a way more fiddly than I wanted it to be, and the fact that so when you say like, hey, I am a adjective, noun, who verbs, well, your noun is always your class. There's 3 classes. You're either a glaive, a jack, or a nano. Essentially, you are a fighter, a thief, or a magic user.
Yeah.
There's the 3 classes. But each piece of the way, like when you pick your descriptor, which is your adjective, it has fiddly bits of, okay, the adjective gives you a bonus to one of your stats. It gives you a skill or 2. It usually gives you a disadvantage on some sort of skill. And then it gives you some connection to the world or something that you have to write down. And then when you use your class gives you a skill or 2. It usually gives you an inability with some sort of skill. It gives you a couple pieces of gear. And then when you choose your focus, which is your third part, your verb, that gives you some piece of gear or some bonus to a stat, some inability. And like, so there's all these parts where you're like marking down different things and changing your stats up and down. And then it just
you're making me want to play it. Like it sounds fucking awesome.
I will say that there was some neat stuff. It was fun for a while, but it suffered from what a lot of games suffer, in that when you get high level in it, things get really difficult to run.
Yeah.
And getting in high level in that didn't actually take that long.
No.
And there was like the nano or whatever, was basically a magic user, and like using your verbs or your adjectives, you can basically essentially be a healer or a blaster or a psionicist or something like that. And it was an interesting concept, but I think the fixed damage always kind of bothered me. I've especially coming from D&D and especially like Rollmaster or something like that. Like I always wanted more out of it. Like I missed, like D&D doesn't have like the descriptive, table of things that happen when you score a crit on a monster and his head explodes or turns a skeleton into a fine mist or something like that. But at least in D&D, like, I did max damage with my greatsword. I did a lot of damage. In this game, there was no, like, I did a stock amount of damage every round. Maybe the glaive did an additional thing because he had an ability or something like that. Maybe it did a couple of extra points. But it's like, I'm using a normal size weapon, I do 4 points of damage every round. I'm using a dagger, I do 2 points of damage every round. I'm using a greatsword, it's 6 points. It just got really boring really fast.
That would be repetitive, yeah.
Yeah, there's no choice in weapons, or rather, your choice doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is it a light weapon, a medium weapon, or a heavy weapon? That determines how much damage it does. 2, 4, or 6. There are a couple things that can change this, like you can find there are a couple of glaive things, there's a couple of the foci that can give you small bonuses to them, and then you can spend so the way you only have 3 abilities scores, in that you have might, speed, and intellect, and you can choose to expend effort, which means you're expending your ability scores. Like you spend points from them. So if you have 13 might, you can spend 3 points to expend 1 effort to increase your damage by 1.
Right.
But your ability scores are also your hit points.
Oh, okay.
So whenever you expend things to do that, you're also reducing your ability to do anything else during the day where you might want to lower a difficulty score or do more damage or get an extra effect, or suffer any consequences as you go. And it kind of makes sense in a way of like, yeah, every situation you get yourself in, and when you spend abilities, reduces your endurance for the day to keep going. And there's abilities to recover some amount of your spent stuff during the day. But it just, it got to the point where, people were just like, okay, well, we have a couple of, like, I think we had 6 players. I think we ended up with 2 glaives, 2 jacks, and 2 nanos. And that's the other point. There's 3 classes. There's not a whole lot of abilities, like, for each tier, like your tier 1 nano abilities when you're level 1. There's only 6 tiers. You get up to tier 6.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, that's not
but
very
your
high.
But your tier 1 nano abilities, you have 4 choices, and you get 2 of them. Well, when you have 2 nanos, you're like, okay, well, we got everything we can do.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's
you have all the abilities in the game.
Yeah, maybe it's the fact that we always play with a larger group, and it was meant for like a 4-person party, so you're not covering literally everything. But I don't know. It felt like we had everything covered, and like we built the perfect party because there was no other option not to build a perfect party. It's
yeah. You only got 3 choices, so
armor doesn't really matter because it's just it's light, medium, or heavy armor, and it just reduces damage by a static amount.
Yeah, the thing is, like, the system itself sounds kind of, I won't say clunky, but just sort of monotonous. But Numenera, like, I've known about it for over a decade at this point. I've never played it. I've never really looked into it. But the artwork is gorgeous in general, and the setting it just seems really interesting. Like, it's a sci-fantasy setting. And like you ran a different game, didn't you, with it? Like
no, I ran Numenera.
Did you? Okay.
The actual setting. I like the setting. I really like the setting, and that's saying something because I dislike most science fantasy.
Okay.
I just not a huge science fantasy fan, but this one struck all the right notes for me. So the setting, you're right, the art is gorgeous. The setting is really cool, interesting. Lots of, like, you can go deep in the lore if you want, but you don't have to go deep in the lore to play the game. You can just kind of play the game. So I love that it kind of covers both of those bases. It's just, I think the problem is to me, and this is just to me, this is not an overall judgment on the system. Clearly, there's a lot of people that love it. I think I just wanted it to be something different than it was, because it feels to me like it kind of has an identity crisis. Like, sometimes it wants to be a really rules light OSR, but sometimes it also doesn't.
In the version of the fact that I cracked open the copy of that I had and saw like the 40 skills or something like that they had in there. Like, ooh, that's a lot of skills, and it was like, these are just ideas of skills that you could possibly have, and like, holy shit, I forgot.
Yeah, there's no set list of skills.
Okay.
You can theoretically have anything
AD&D-ish. Yeah.
You can theoretically have anything you want as a skill, but sometimes there's not a whole lot. Like, it can't decide some of the times whether you should be, like, take a skill as it should be hyper focused on that thing or it should be more broad. For example, they're like, you could have a skill in oratory or public speaking, or debate, or negotiation, or persuasion are all possible skills. I'm like,
there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap.
So either you have to be like hyper specific, because if you have a PC that's good at debate and one that's good at negotiation, you got to be really specific. If you want them to feel different, you got to be really specific as to like what counts for that skill. Or you just kind of have to hand wave it and be like, if you're good at talking to people.
Yeah, I understand the identity crisis thing. Like, I've talked about it several times on here before. When you're making a role-playing game, you either need to go rules light or you need to fucking go all in on rules. You can't sort of half-ass that. Because,
and I feel like this one kind of... knowing that like Monte Cookes did a lot of work in like 3.5 and stuff, this kind of feels like it can't decide. Like, there's some things where where it seems like he really liked 3.5. It's kind of it's not D&D at all, but he liked the kind of some of the crunch of 3.5, and so they wanted to have some of that in there. But at the same time, some of the stuff is just like, oh, you can have whatever kind of skills you want. It doesn't really matter. And there's a lot of story stuff where like, hey, you can spend your XP to create what's called a player intrusion, where you just go, hey, we're in this town, I decide I'm spending an XP, I know a guy here, DM.
I don't necessarily like the idea of spending XP to do that, but having the ability to say, I know a guy here. I've seen that in other tabletops, and I don't hate that.
The XP thing isn't really a big deal because, like I said, you can level up pretty fast. Like, it did not take nearly as long. And I was going by, like, book suggested how much XP they should get for things. And they also, one of the things, you can do what's called a GM intrusion. And that's where you decide to, like, shake up a scene by saying, hey, something bad happens. And the players can choose to reject it. But if they don't, they get XP.
Yeah.
Did Monte Cookes do anything for Fantasy Flight on their system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because this sounds.
He worked for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Fantasy Flight, I want to say what did he do for them?
Because this sounds exactly like the Star Wars system.
He
On the other hand,
might have worked on that.
the world, like Jay said, the artwork is fantastic. The world of Numenera is a really cool science fantasy setting where like the world got to or the universe, galaxy, however far you want to expand it, got to a super high-tech level. Like nanobots everywhere. They were able to change their atmosphere, completely terraform planets, reshape like the heat of stars. Really high tech, just as high tech as you want to get, to the point where sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And then it all fell apart, and now the people that are inhabiting this world full of all these like weird things are the sophistication of like medieval times, but they can see all these like weird pieces of technology and things that was from the world before it fell apart. So they know that there's all these things, but depending on their level of like, if they're the Eon priests that are the keepers of lore that sort of understand some of it, and the people that are just like, that's magic and that's demons.
Mm-hmm.
So cool setting, love the setting, would totally run it in something else. And they did a 5e version of it. He actually came back to Kickstarter and did a whole 5e version of Numenera, where he built.
He also kickstarted like it's not Numenera 2, but it's basically a revised edition of Numenera in 2017, and apparently did a video game called Torment: Tides of Numenera, the spiritual successor of Planescape. That's what it says. I don't know.
It was okay. It was an okay video game. That's my thoughts. It was not the spiritual successor to.
I remember hearing about it. I remember hearing about it when it came out. I remember that advertisement with it.
Yeah.
And then I never played it.
Yeah, it moves really slow. It does use sort of the Cypher system. It's just it was not my favorite. It's not what I would have wanted out of a spiritual successor to Planescape. It's got a neat story. The story of it is really cool.
Chris, Monte Cookes did work on the Star Wars role-playing game for Fantasy Flight.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that DNA in this. So I think the issue is what I wanted out of this was a more rules light game, less fit. And I think like I still love the idea of like I am a clever glaive that that controls magnetism, or that idea of like crafting that thing. But I think as much as I normally hate classless games, I think with your focus, you have this whole thing of like, okay, I bear a halo of fire, and then that focus of wearing a halo of fire gives you a bunch of cool abilities, like just for that part of it. Like you get a bunch of neat fire abilities and ability to do that. I think with that, you didn't really need the class part.
Yeah,
because especially one of them is like they have a ton of these. They have like master's weapons as one of your things. Well, if you have like, do you really need to be a glaive that masters weapons? Because isn't that kind of, you're starting to get redundant? I guess you can double down if you just really want to be the weapon guy, which also seems like a weird thing in a game that's supposed to not be about combat and be about exploration.
Yeah, and it also is, because you're the class, it's sort of locking you into this role, whether you really kind of want to be.
So all that said, I mean, we haven't revisited it since it 2013, 2014, maybe. Like it came out in 2013, we played it through 2014.
Yep.
But like since then, Bruce Cordell and Sean K. Reynolds joined Monte Cookes Games and have been writing. And I'm looking at like this huge list of stuff that's been written. And basically, it looks like Sean Reynolds and Bruce Cordell basically write all of the stuff for them now. Like all their other stuff was Monte Cookes and Shannon Germain, but everything else since then has pretty much been Sean Reynolds and Bruce Cordell, which you'll probably know who they are because Sean Reynolds wrote a lot of the Forgotten Realms stuff for D&D 3.5. And Bruce Cordell worked at WotC for quite a long time as well, and he did a whole lot of stuff for D&D. He wrote Return to White Plume Mountain, Return to the Tomb of Horrors, Die Vecna Die. He worked on the Sunless Citadel with Monte Cookes. You know, he a lot of his work typically is Lovecraftian, so he's got, you know, if you're doing the weird sci-fi, you want to have Bruce Cordell writing stuff for you. He's definitely an excellent writer. But so is Sean K. Reynolds, and
so he wrote.
Sean's super nice guy too.
Yeah,
so
he is.
happy when he moved over to them. Always has time to talk with you whenever you see him at a con.
So Bruce Cordell wrote for the Cypher system a system called The Strange, and it is
I think I kickstarted that.
It is. It's kind of neat. It's their quasi sort of Planescape-esque, because he was also involved in the Planescape stuff. But it's it's also kind of more of like a X-Files kind of thing. You are on modern day Earth, and you work for an agency that knows, hey, there are other multiverse like realities and stuff out there, and sometimes they kind of get too close to ours, or the barriers between them get too thin, and things come into our world, or something from our world goes into their world. And so you are the guys that have to deal with all that weird stuff. And the thing about it used the same cipher system. I think they changed the name of the classes to make them a slightly more modern, but it was the same classes. You were a warrior guy, you were a skill guy, or you were the weird powers guy. But their thing was, so every time you would go into another incursion or another reality, you're focused, the last part of it. Like, so if you're in the reality, you were a clever agent who shows his badge, you would go into they had the weird Egypt realm where you could suddenly become you were a clever agent who inhabits a body of stone, and like your power set would change every time you moved to a different world.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool.
It was kind of a neat system of like you would go to different worlds, you were dealing with stuff, and then your power set would change. And some of the things had the ability to where like once you got high enough level, you could choose to be like, well, I'm bringing over that. Like I know I'm in another reality, but because I'm choosing to bring that power set over and being that instead. So I'm going to invade this weird hypertech thing, but instead of like getting my whatever like hyper technology nano samurai thing, I am showing up in a like Egyptian stone Anubis body.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. Yeah. These settings sound just like they're very creative. I like that.
Tons of creativity to settings. It's been a long time since I've revisited the system. I still think I still have kind of an idea of I would like to do like a hack of Numenera where I would get rid of the class and just worry about like, hey, you have you still have the other two, but your key things of your abilities are set off of whatever your focus is, because that's the weird stuff that seems the most interesting to me.
Yeah, might be worth taking a look at the newer editions to see what.
I have them.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
Yeah, I have.
So they didn't really change that any.
They cleaned up some stuff. They standardized some stuff. Like there was some weird changes. Like in the first edition, so it's called the Cypher system because as you go through the world of Numenera, you find things that are called ciphers, and they're basically supposed to be disposable, random, weird, one-use magic items. And some of it you just go when you go and explore ruins, you can cobble together stuff and you can create a thing that might explode, or maybe it gives everyone around you the ability to breathe and swim through stone, or just all kinds of random weird abilities.
Okay.
And it used to be you would start with one random one, but then the new wings they changed it. Everyone gets like a standard set of them with the option to get random ones instead of the standard set list for each class. And then they added some new classes. There's like a defender type of class. There is a craftsman type of class, and then there is a people kind of class.
Right, yeah. The talky guy.
The talky guy, yeah. So But like I said, I have some ideas of kind of doing a hack of it where I just get rid of the class and just focus on your power set, because to me that was the interesting part, the riding the lightning or inhabiting stone or wearing a sheen of ice, all that cool stuff. Like that was the neat stuff.
I honestly think you should try out the Star Wars system. Like I know you hate the special dice and stuff like that.
I have played it and I did not care for it.
Really, because everything you say, like I remember all that from the Star Wars system, and like the using the Force to basically beat Destiny die to do the same thing that you were mentioning ago. We're like, oh yeah, I know a guy here, and flipping that over to the DM. Basically, they had ciphers too, which just basically Force imbued objects. Like everything feels very one-to-one relationship. Just the only thing that I could think of different is like they have their set dice that they use, which love it or hate it.
I didn't love the cipher system as much as I wanted to, because I wanted it to be a little more of what kind of Pirate Borg and Shadow Dark are. Like those hit the notes for me way more than that did, and that's kind of what I realized after we played through games like Pirate Borg and Mothership. Just the fact that like when we went into Pirate Borg, we created our characters in like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Same thing with
a table of 8 people made characters in less than 10 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, and definitely I think that the Star Wars system is, when you were saying you wish it was either heavier or lighter and to be better, I think the Star Wars system is definitely more heavier on the side of the rules, like especially with their skill trees that you have to build stuff out into.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I liked all that,
Sure,
the dice is never an issue because I just auto rolled all of it.
Yeah, I don't knock anyone that likes the system, and I don't think the system is wrong. I think it wasn't the right system for me. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't what I wanted out of a system. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the system at all. It's just not what I was looking for, or I think it just didn't meet. I had a different expectation of what it was going to be, and so my expectations didn't line up with what it actually was. Yeah. And I don't think that's on them or their advertising or anything. No fault on Monte Cookes Games or anyone associated with it. This was just all me, and it just didn't end up being what I wanted to be. And I don't think my players really enjoyed it, and that could have just been my fault on I'm running a new system and I didn't know it super well. So like again, but no, I think I still love that idea of creating your character in a sentence, and I still to me that still captures something for me. So maybe I'll write a hack of it one day.
Yeah, I think it'd be very hard to kind of get that system to be as, I guess, low end, as light as you want it to be, and still keep that weird complexity. I don't know. It maybe worth trying out.
If you look at some of the more modern OSR type games, at least except as now, like if you look at Into the Odd and Cairn, those games are very lightweight but very weird, and they keep a lot of that randomness. I think I would do stuff. I like the slot based inventory, and I think I could do it, give it a little bit of work, but I think it would look more like Into the Odd and Cairn and Mothership. But it would keep that sort of like, hey, you choose your descriptor, you choose your noun. Noun might end up being your species or something like that, and then you choose whatever your weird power set is, and then let's go. Because that way you could do a very kind of Pirate Borg kind of thing where, hey, you just roll it. Everyone has it. It's a chart of them. Descriptor, what you are, and then what your power thing is, and then you just roll it and you go. And that's kind of what I would be going for, something like that.
Now, I know we only played Pirate Borg for a little bit, but is that, you said it was based on Mork Borg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, is the Mork Borg the same easy way to build up a character? Or is it different?
It's a little actually less defined than even Pirate Borg. I think Pirate Borg very well distills the essence of Mork Borg, but gives it a little more rules set to it. And that's saying something. Mork Borg is also, Pirate Borg did the Borg well in a way that even as art heavy as it is, I can still read it. Mork Borg they have a text-only copy of it because they realize that the book itself is something of an art project, and there's some places that are definitely hard for my old man eyes to read.
Yeah, it's quite a piece of art. Every page is just full of it.
It is. It is a metal and punk rock tribute piece, and I love it for that.
Yeah.
But,
all right.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this thing up. I got one quick monster to go over. Take maybe 5 minutes.
We already did our monster.
Yeah, but I haven't talked about mine. I want to tell you guys about the X-Crawl Classics monster referred to as the Killy Putty.
Please tell me more.
I knew some of you guys would be in immediately. The Killy Putty is a 7-foot tall blob of gray rubbery ooze, custom bred from standard dungeon slime for dungeon judges around the Empire. It moves much quicker than it looks like it ought to be able to, flinging itself around the battlefield like the snapping of a rubber band. On a successful attack, it wraps a pseudopod around a humanoid's face and starts to squeeze. This deals 1d4 damage per round as it suffocates the victim. It is extremely difficult to remove, requiring either a DC 18 strength check or DC 16 agility. Unless the victim has a means of silent spellcasting, a successful suffocation attack prevents spellcasting until the Killy Putty is removed. Yeah, I mean, that tracks. Killy Putty can stretch itself up to 30 feet long. Its flexible form gives it a plethora of choices when it attacks. It could make its body into a slingshot between 2 fixed points and fling opponents away, or make itself into a tent-like hemisphere to protect an object, for example. Killy Putty copies impressions of anything it touches as if it were lifting newsprint. When it's strangling an opponent, its pseudopod takes the appearance of the victim's choking face.
Oh my god.
This has no effect on combat. It's just nasty. Killy Putty regenerates 2 hit points a round of damage from smashing, cutting, bludgeoning, or piercing, including bullets, but not energy attacks. The creature is immune to sleep, charm, and mind control effects. Killy Putty cannot regenerate damage from energy attacks, and it takes double damage from flame or heat, acid, or sonic. Killy Putty does not need to eat, sleep, or breathe. So that's the Killy Putty.
Oh, I'm a fan.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I'm at some point I'm definitely going to use this thing, and I'm going to try to slingshot people around the battlefield with it.
Nice.
I love the fact that it takes your face.
Yeah. As it's killing you,
Your
take
strangled face.
Face off.
Yep.
I
Has
wanna
no
take
effect
his
on
face
combat.
off.
It's just nasty.
Excellent.
All right. That's all I got for this week. Everybody else done?
Yeah.
I am done.
Oh no.
Nope.
I'm waiting for where this is gonna go.
I wanted to ask Kristian, should I read through this dungeon magazine I have that's all about nautiloids, or should I skip it?
Of course
Yeah, you should probably skip it.
Okay, I'll skip it.
Yep. Yeah, definitely don't read that.
Yeah, no, okay.
All right, guys.
The only thing I want to note is that when I was actually going through the dungeon magazines and looking at this nautiloid picture, for some reason the map that they drew is still a galleon, even though it's a nautiloid.
Oopsie.
Well, I think they did it on purpose. Like, oh, we're not creative enough for this shit, or something.
Excellent.
I don't know.
We don't have an art budget. Fuck it.
Use the galleon again. All right, that's all I had, guys. You all have a wonderful Easter and post-Easter. Did you all get candy?
I had
got
apple.
candy. No, I did not get candy.
I had apple pie. Does that
That's
count?
nice.
No, it doesn't count.
I had key lime pie.
Nope, still doesn't count. Well, no con saves for any of you.
Okay.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye, Craig.
I got the beatus.